I did a video on this channel recently talking about the possibility of TNA going back to a six-sided ring. They were doing a Facebook poll about it, and it was causing a buzz, it was causing a stir, so I offered my thoughts and opinions on it. And I thought it was just kind of one of those hypothetical things, like the WWE does from time to time, and they were just going to kind of see what the fans' thoughts were and then move on. But apparently they weren't just doing that. They ramped it up a notch. They kicked it up a notch for sure. Apparently, from what I understand, they're doing a poll on their website asking the fans if they want the four-sided ring or they want the six-sided ring on a permanent basis, and perhaps starting as early as this week's Impact. I was actually a little bit surprised to see this. Now, I will commend TNA for doing this, if nothing else, trying to engage the fans, trying to be interactive with the fans, trying to make them feel more important, more of a part of the show. I applaud them for all of those things. Maybe understanding that your fans are your customers, and instead of trying to alienate them, instead of trying to piss them off, make them feel like they have some power, even if they really don't, even if your whole decision-making process has already been decided and you're just doing this from a PR standpoint. Again, I don't begrudge TNA for doing this. Now, I've offered my thoughts on this before. Kind of on the one hand, that six-sided ring was something that was a part of TNA's identity. And I thought it was a mistake to ever get rid of it to begin with. It was something that made them unique. It was something that differentiated them from the WWE and other American wrestling companies. On the flip side of that, I also said, what good does it do to bring back something that's been gone for 4 years when a lot of the people that fans would associate with that six-sided ring are no longer there? There's no more Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, Jay Lethal, Christopher Daniels, Kazarian, AJ Styles. The names go on and on. What good does it do to bring this back if you don't have the names that harken back to that? And furthermore, it's been 4 years plus. Maybe it's time to leave that go. And you've already went down this path. You might as well keep going down this path and make the best out of the situation that you could. So, as I can imagine, fans have all different types of views and viewpoints on this, and not surprisingly to me, I saw yesterday that some wrestlers have some viewpoints on this, and a couple in particular that stand out. And I want to read their tweets so that way I can provide the proper context of what they're saying, and then I can also address what they're saying as well. The first tweets I will read will be from Austin Aries, who actually kind of went on a mini, almost like diatribe or rant about this on Twitter yesterday. Not in a bad way. Obviously, he has the right to express his opinion and should express his opinion. And then there was a tweet afterwards done by Ethan Carter III. But let me pull this up here so that way I could read all the tweets that were done by Austin Aries yesterday in reference to this topic. He said, "So the people who don't wrestle are letting people who don't wrestle decide what I have to wrestle in. Great idea, my body, my vote, hashtag four sides. What's wrong with wrestling? Letting people who've never done it and never put their bodies on the line run the show. Hashtag doesn't work, hashtag four sides. Please understand, I do think the fans' voices should be heard, and I'm all for an interactive experience, but I'm not sure this is the appropriate place for it, nor do I feel the potential risk outweighs the potential benefit for the wrestlers. For those curious, I find six sides to be far less forgiving on the body and harder to maneuver around, especially on the top rope, hashtag four sides. Guess I accomplished stirring up some debate on hashtag four sides or hashtag six sides. We all have opinions, and I shared mine from a different perspective. Please don't misinterpret hashtag six sides as unsafe or dangerous. Decision makers at Impact Wrestling would never put us in that position. Hashtag four sides." Those were all the different things that Austin Aries said in reference to this. And then Ethan Carter III chimed in and said, "This is why democracy doesn't work. You people should not have a voice when it comes to my well-being and safety. Hashtag traditional, hashtag four sides." Now, I get where they're coming from. And I understand to a degree where they're coming from. And there's something to be said. You could even look at it and see where the six-sided ring would seem to be more difficult to work in, where it would seem to be less forgiving. And I get all of that. And I understand that these guys put their bodies on the line to make a living, to entertain me, to entertain you, to entertain us as wrestling fans. And, they should want to make sure that, most importantly, number one, they are being taken care of, and in particular, their bodies are being taken care of, because that ultimately is the device in which they are able to make a living. However, I have a couple of problems with what Austin Aries tweeted and Ethan Carter III retweeted, with all due respect. When I look at what Austin Aries said here, he's saying that TNA wouldn't put them in an unsafe or dangerous situation, but yet several of his tweets kept implying that the six-sided ring was unsafe and was dangerous, saying it was less forgiving, harder to maneuver around. You're talking about my body, my vote. So all of these things, again, are implying that, the four-sided ring would be safer than the six-sided ring. And I get it. If Austin Aries is sitting there saying that I feel this is a better ring for us, I feel this is safer for the boys, the girls, the workers, fine. I don't disagree with them there. He would know much better than I would. But what I do take a little bit of an exception to, and I get tired of hearing this out of people in professional wrestling, is saying letting people who've never done it and never put their bodies on the line run the show. What's wrong with wrestling? Well, if anything, you could actually argue that the people that do put their bodies on the line, the people that have worked in the business, the people that have been in the ring, in large part have contributed to the demise of professional wrestling as an entertainment genre here in the United States. And it also comes back to this thing of, wrestling fans don't know what they don't know, and they really don't know a damn thing. I find this funny every time I read a tweet from a professional wrestler that complains about the customer service for an airline, whether it be a canceled flight or lost baggage or delayed flights or what have you. Now, these wrestlers have never probably worked for an airline, more likely than not. They don't understand all the inner workings. They don't understand how the things work, but yet they have no problem chiming in with their thoughts and opinions, and in a lot of ways offering what they think should be done and how things should be run. And you see this when it comes to professional wrestlers in their tweets when talking about different things as well. This is the same thing as if, for all of us that vote in elections, most of us have never worked in politics in any way, shape, or form. Should we not be allowed to vote at the local, state, and federal level because since we've never been in politics, we've never worked in politics, we don't understand politics, we don't understand how the game works, we don't understand the challenges that these representatives and politicians face, which bribe to take and which dirty money to take? That's ridiculous, and that's stupid. And I dispute this whole notion that because you've never done it, that doesn't mean you don't have a voice. Just because you've never done it doesn't mean you don't have a good opinion on it. That's just completely stupid. And my whole thing for Austin Aries and for TNA in general is that look at where the four-sided ring has ultimately gotten you. At this point in time, you were in a position where you recently did a house show at a baseball field that I believe could hold up to 10,000 people, and you had 74 paying customers in attendance and like 100 or 200 comps. The last thing you need to be doing is anything that potentially could be pissing off whatever remaining fans you have. So my thing would be, if the six-sided ring is a kind of nice, feel-good, short-term kind of publicity stunt, then fucking do it. For an Austin Aries to sit there and talk about my body, my vote, this is the same guy that does a lot of high spots, diving through the ropes, flipping over the ropes, doing shit off the top ropes. You're so concerned about your body and your safety, yet look at the style of wrestling, look at the style of work that you do in the ring. I mean, come on, man. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And same thing for Ethan Carter III when he's talking about people shouldn't have a voice when it comes to my well-being and my safety. Keep in mind that if those fans aren't around, and the limited fans that you still have left with TNA, mind you, Ethan, if those fans aren't still around, then you don't have anybody to perform for, and you don't have a chance to make a living where you do with TNA. You might say, well, you could go somewhere else. Well, you've already been somewhere else, and you saw how that went for you personally. As far as well-being and safety, I find it funny that a guy is complaining about fans being able to decide his well-being and his safety, yet he's wrestling in a Texas death match at Slammiversary. He's been in First Blood matches. He's been in tables matches. This whole thing of fans don't respect the workers' bodies. Well, apparently in a lot of cases, the workers don't respect the workers' bodies. So what the fuck do you expect the fans to do? Look, at the end of the day, I do think it is kind of silly. Let me pull this back up here. That TNA is doing this, it seems like, just as a knee-jerk reflex reaction, almost kind of like a panic type of desperation move. It doesn't seem like something that has been well thought out and well planned out and really has a rhyme or reason for it. And that is a bit concerning to me because at the end of the day, this ring is a big part of your identity, whether it's four sides or whether it's six sides. And if you're going to sit there and not really plan out what your identity is, that just points to more of the overall troubles of the company as a whole, in my opinion. in my opinion, as somebody from the outside looking in. Look, Austin Aries and Ethan Carter III and all the other people can say whatever they want. I think Velvet Sky said she missed a six-sided ring and she wanted it back. I'm sure there are people that have differing opinions on this, and everybody's going to have a differing opinion on this, and that's fine. It's just, when I saw these tweets, it concerned me a little bit because, again, it talks about this bubble that I think people in the professional wrestling business live in. It's almost like they're blaming the fans to a certain degree for the shape of the business. Don't blame the fans. Blame yourselves and your cohorts that have created the environment that have put the wrestling business in the goddamn position it is. Furthermore, I dispute this notion that you have to work on the inside of something in order to have a viewpoint on something. Like I said, this doesn't apply to politics. You don't have to know how an iPhone is assembled and put together and the technology behind it to know whether or not you like it or not, or whether or not the interface is good or not, or whether it's user friendly or not, or whether you prefer that over an Android or not. This is just stupid. You don't have to sit there and have played in the NFL for 10 years to be able to understand some of the things that go on in the NFL game or the NBA or in Major League Baseball, whatever the case might be. And I'm tired of hearing wrestlers say this. They should know better, you would think, because it's almost like they try to distance themselves from the fact that at one point in time they were fans. There's nothing wrong with being a fan. There's definitely nothing wrong with being in the professional wrestling business. I think it would be a great way to make a living, the chance to pursue a dream, something that all of us want to do that so often most of us aren't able to do for our own reasons. And I applaud people like Austin Aries and Ethan Carter III for being able to pursue their dream, be able to chase their dream, be able to live out their dream. Basically, do something that you would want to do as a kid and be able to get paid at it and do it for a living. I think that's cool. I don't fully agree that TNA should go back to the six-sided ring. I'm kind of on the side of Austin Aries and Ethan Carter III, but I'm kind of on that side of the fence for different reasons than them. I'm curious to know what you think. Will TNA go to six sides? Should they go to six sides? What do you think about what Austin Aries and Ethan Carter III said? I wanted to hear all your thoughts and see all your thoughts in the comments section down below.